Currituck Beach Lighthouse, Corolla, North Carolina, Outer Banks. There she is, 162 feet to the top of the roof, 1 million bricks, unpainted. That's actually her signature feature. Every other lighthouse on this stretch of coast got a paint job to distinguish itself. Currituck just said, "No thank you, I'll be the brick one." Construction started in 1873. The date carved above the entrance says 1873, not 1875, when it was actually completed, because apparently even lighthouses understand that the start of a project is what gets memorialized, not the exhausting middle, not the moment it's finally actually done. Let's go inside. 220 steps await, spiraling upward through this narrow brick tower. 5 feet 8 inches thick at the base, this wall, built that thick to support the entire structure's weight, to withstand hurricane winds, to last considerably longer than whoever built it. The walls narrow as you climb, 3 feet thick at the parapet compared to 5'8" at the base. Less material needed up here, less weight to support, but also just narrower, tighter. The climb gets more intimate the higher you go. This lighthouse used a Funk's hydraulic float lamp originally. Fueled with lard oil, 4 concentric wicks burning simultaneously to create enough light to warn ships 18 nautical miles away. Think about that specifically, lard oil. Someone figured out that rendered animal fat could burn consistently enough to save lives at sea. Necessity generating remarkably specific innovation. By 1884, they switched to kerosene, 5 wicks thin, the largest 4 inches in diameter. By 1913, incandescent oil vapor lamps, kerosene vaporized and pumped by hand into the burner. Constant evolution, constant adjustment to keep the light burning, keep it bright enough, keep it reliable enough that ships could trust it completely. Before electricity, keepers had to manually crank weights every 2.5 hours. A clockwork mechanism, like a massive grandfather clock, rotating the lens to create that flashing pattern instead of just steady light. Every 2.5 hours, all night, every night. That's the job. Not glamorous, not exciting most nights, just consistent, essential maintenance of something larger than yourself. But it's the actual job, cranking the weights, keeping the light burning, showing up consistently even when it's exhausting, even when no ships are visibly grateful for your effort that particular night. The keepers eventually got replaced by automation in 1939. Computerized systems, 4 1,000-watt bulbs installed, only 1 flashing at a time while 3 waited as backup. Bittersweet, probably, for those dismissed lighthouse keepers. All that dedication, suddenly unnecessary. Getting close now, you can feel it. The air changing slightly, the sense of openness approaching after all this narrow, spiraling brick enclosure. This is a first-order lighthouse, largest of 7 possible Fresnel lens sizes. That lens, the actual glass mechanism up there, still functions today. Original equipment, still doing exactly what it was designed to do nearly 150 years ago. Think about that longevity. 1 million bricks, 1 carefully engineered lens, still functioning essentially unchanged since 1875. We're not allowed up into the actual lens room, by the way. That functioning original Fresnel lens is too valuable, too delicate, too essential to navigation to risk casual visitor access. Story of my life, honestly. Get right up close to the actual mechanism of things, close enough to understand how it works, but never quite allowed complete access to the mystery itself. Okay, this view. This is worth every single one of those 220 steps. You can see the whole Currituck Sound spreading out one direction, Atlantic Ocean stretching endlessly the other way, barrier islands visible for miles, The whole geography of this coastline suddenly comprehensible from up here in ways it never is from ground level. That's the gift of elevation, isn't it? Perspective you simply cannot access from within the daily experience. From down there, walking the beach, you just see sand and water immediately around you. From up here, you see the whole pattern, how everything connects, how the barrier islands protect the mainland, how this exact spot made sense for exactly this kind of warning light. 18 nautical miles this light reaches. Ships navigate specifically by its 20-second flash pattern, 3 seconds on, 17 seconds off. That specific rhythm helps sailors identify exactly which lighthouse they're seeing, distinguishing Currituck from other lights along this same coastline. Every lighthouse has its own rhythm, its own signature pattern. Heading down now. Somehow descending 220 steps feels almost harder than climbing them. Different muscles, different balance required, definitely harder on the knees. There's an interesting legal history here, actually. The Outer Banks conservationists took on restoration work starting in 1980, entirely through private funding and volunteer effort. No government money initially, just people who cared enough about preserving this structure to do the actual physical work themselves. In 2003, the federal government granted them ownership, but Currituck County sued, wanted the property for themselves, tried through legislative maneuvering to acquire what OBC had already earned through decades of dedicated restoration work. Took until 2006 to settle. OBC kept ownership. The people who'd actually done the work, who'd shown up consistently for over 2 decades before anyone else cared enough to fight for it, they kept what they'd earned. There's something in that story, probably, about consistency mattering more than convenient timing, about showing up before something becomes valuable or contested, doing unglamorous restoration work when nobody's fighting over ownership yet. The county wanted ownership once the lighthouse became valuable, once OBC's restoration work had already transformed it back into something worth having. But ownership, real ownership, belongs to whoever did the actual sustained work when it mattered most. I used to think Sisyphus's punishment was purely tragic, eternally pushing that boulder uphill, watching it roll back down, repeating forever without ever achieving final completion. But maybe there's something else there too. Maybe the meaning isn't in finishing. Maybe it's in the daily choice to push again anyway, to crank those weights every 2.5 hours, all night, every night, not because you'll eventually finish, but because the ships need the light regardless of whether your task ever formally concludes. So that's Currituck Beach Lighthouse. 220 steps, 1 million bricks, a functioning original Fresnel lens still warning ships exactly like it did in 1875. No wildlife narrator today, just me, reluctantly documenting my own family's climb. The light will come on again tonight. 20-second intervals, 3 seconds bright, 17 seconds dark, warning ships regardless of whether anyone's watching, regardless of whether the task ever feels complete. I'll probably do something similar tomorrow. Not lighthouse keeping, obviously. Showing up again, cranking whatever metaphorical weights need cranking, maintaining whatever light I'm apparently responsible for keeping lit. Thanks for climbing with us today, both the literal 220 steps and whatever metaphorical distance we covered along the way.